Hi, and welcome back to India on 99.94, your home of Indian cricket content via the 99.94 app on YouTube and, of course, via your podcast provider. As always, I'm your host, Nikesh Ragani, BBC commentator, and Sarah Warris of Wisden, my co-host, alongside me. And unfortunately, Sarah, we talk here after India have blown it once again in a knockout game at an ICC event. They got hammered, they got mauled, they got humiliated, they got embarrassed, whatever adjective you want to use. They were just well and truly outclassed by England today with both bat and ball, weren't they? And we kind of expected it, really, didn't we, coming up against England?
Yeah. Just before that, James Neesham, after losing the 2019 World Cup final, had said, no, take up baking instead. I think that's what I should take up now because this uh, defeat after defeat in another knockout is just getting too much to handle now. I think this is the 11th defeat overall, men's and women's combined since 2014, which is yeah, it's not being an easy Indian it's not easy being an Indian cricket fan. And what was disheartening was, the way of the defeat. Like, they didn't even offer a tiny bit of hope or that they were in the game. There was this instance where I think the ball went up in the air. I don't remember the fielder, I don't remember the batter, I don't remember the fielder. I was just zoned out by the end of the match. And it was a dropped catch. While it was in the air, I was just like, it's not going to go India's way, and it didn't. Like, it was a very easy catch. It was a dropped catch, and that just summed up India's campaign overall. Yeah, disappointing.
Yeah, I mean, look, I kind of felt it was almost over at the toss, really,
Mm.
and not that the toss is crucial in games like this necessarily, but when you've got an India side who bats the way they do in the power play, and an England side the way they do when they're chasing, particularly in the power play, it just felt. I mean, it didn't matter if India won the toss or lost the toss. Rohit said he was going to bat first anyway. So, which we discussed on the previous podcast, it was the wrong decision. It proved to be so today. And if someone like me can sort of suggest that, who I'm former club cricketer, I play to a decent standard in county age groups and all that, but this is like an international cricket captain. You've got Rahul Dravid sitting there alongside him as one of the greatest cricket minds of all time, apparently. And they just keep deciding to bat first. And, in big games like this, are they stupid or are they deluded or what is it? Because I knew that the way India bat, they're going to go along at their fives and sixes and over, usual stuff, maybe lose a wicket in the power play, and then put pressure on that middle order and not really kick on until later on in the innings, which was the case because you lose the early wicket or two sometimes. Then there's a partnership that has to build, and you've got Kohli, who takes his time to get started and all that. And then by the time you kick on, I mean, Suryakumar didn't quite come off today, so you've got Hardik as well, who's not the quickest starter in the fashion that Sky is as well. So you've got that partnership which then builds after those first three wickets fall, and you don't really start playing shots until 15 overs, 16 overs have gone. It's too late. India scored a par total. And once again, that start. Let's talk about the openers, the Indian openers. KL Rahul, 5 from 5, 100
Started with a
strike
four
rate.
today,
He
not a
started with a
maiden.
4.
Four, yeah.
Yeah, not a maiden, a 4. And then didn't do anything for the rest of the innings. Very short stay at the crease. So there's your early wicket, predictable. We all knew it was coming. You could call that from a mile away. And Rohit, well, look, Rohit's talked about intent. And we saw that only, as we keep mentioning, in the England series, where they beat England in both the ODIs and the T20s. There was intent and there was aggression, and it didn't matter if they lost a couple of early wickets. They kept going hard. But don't forget, they had people like Deepak Hooda in that side at the top of the order, and it was a slightly different makeup. different conditions as well, different situation being in a bilateral series. Since then, they've done bugger all of that. In the Asia Cup, nothing, no intent. Well, I don't know. Maybe today Rohit did have intent. He was trying to play shots. He just looked shit, really. He
Yeah.
just looked rubbish. He couldn't hit the ball. So maybe it's just a case of, okay, I might have the intent, but am I good enough to be in this side and captain this side and be their leader with 27 from 28? That's pathetic, really. And okay, it can happen on any given day to any batter, but it's been happening time and time again with both Rohit and KL Rahul at the top of the order. They're stuck in like, late 90s, early 2000s ODI cricket sometimes, the way they play. Just let's see the shine off the new ball, and then it will stop swinging, and then we can sort of accumulate and then hit out at the end. It's a very, very outdated method of batting, and it was just so predictable, wasn't it? I don't know how you felt watching that, firstly, that short opening partnership, but then Rohit just scratching around for those 28 deliveries. He played some, 4 beautiful shots in that, which were his boundaries. But apart from that, just terrible and so predictable.
Yeah, and she spoke about intent, but I think intent in bilaterals is very different to intent in world tournaments, or not even world tournaments, even multinational tournaments. The Asia Cup wasn't a world tournament. Having intent against England in a bilateral series where the maximum, yeah, you can lose this series, but there's not a larger thing at stake there, is very different to having intent in world, in bigger tournaments, and which we saw in this, in the Asia Cup also, and we saw now. Even in between that, there was, they played against South Africa and they played against Australia. It was at home, but they batted with more intent in those tournaments. So it's, somehow just comes down to world events, how they uh, see these events, and something is going wrong for them. Are they unable to handle the pressure? But then, they have been playing IPL for years, and they have been in that situation time and time again. Obviously, comparing IPL with world event is not fair, uh, but what else needs to be done? And yeah, especially Rohit Sharma had a strike rate of not even 100. He had a strike rate of 96. They struggled. His partnership with Kohli, we know Kohli is not the best against spinners, and then Adil Rashid bowled brilliantly in the power plays. Um, so yeah, it was just bowling to Rohit and Kohli, both of whom who struggle against spin. It was just game over for them. In my last podcast, I had said that the power play will define where the match goes, and that's how it happens. But one more thing with Rohit Sharma, it's not just his batting which is under scanner, it's his captaincy as well. I don't know what you make of the move to go back to Rishabh Pant when they were backing Dinesh Karthik, and such an unfortunate end for Dinesh Karthik, just to have that hope and then to have someone snatch it away. He was unlucky that dismissal both times. I think his dismissal against Pakistan, he was unfortunate. Even against Bangladesh, there was a very controversial decision. Could have gone either way. So I don't know what you made of his captaincy as well overall.
Yeah, you've got to have a plan coming into a tournament like this about your best side. You should know basically what your best side is, and maybe have room for maneuver in one or two of those positions based on either conditions or opposition that you're facing. The Rishabh Pant DK situation has not been based on any of that. It's basically they've shat themselves and thought, oh, DK is not getting any runs. Quick, let's get Rishabh in. And he's a left-hander, so that's a bonus as well. You've been grooming DK for a year to be your T20I finisher. Either they got that wrong in the first place, or they just fucked up when it got to the tournament, because you just can't go into tournaments like this. It's like it's trying to put band-aids or plasters, on a wound, just to temporarily cover your flaws, basically. It's not, these are not solutions that are going to win you tournaments. You know what I mean? They're temporary solutions knee-jerk reactions, and they don't really have any plans in place, any solid plans of how this side should look, what brand of cricket they should play, who's their best personnel. They've not even picked, I don't think, their best squad that was available to them. Okay, we talk about Bumrah missing, Jadeja missing. Jadeja's a big blow, I think, as well as Bumrah. Bumrah, obviously, the best in the world, best fast bowler across formats in the world. Jadeja, hasn't got the best T20 stats, but he lifts the side. He's got all that energy. He's good for the balance of the side as well, just batting in that lower order and just gives you that extra all-round option down there. And the fielding, of course, and just the energy that he brings to a side, I think lifts the side. Just having him in the squad, even if he's not playing, I think he's a good man to have around with his experience and his energy. But you look through it, and what has changed since the last World Cup? Rishabh Pant, if you think he's going to be a T20I cricketer and he's going to be part of your T20I plans going forward, you need to give him a good run going into a World Cup. You can't just bring him in for crucial games towards the end and expect him to perform in a role that he doesn't perform that well anyway as a finisher. He's got to bat at the top of the order if he's going to play. Certainly in the top four, he's not going to bat at 3 or 4 because those positions are nailed down. And those have been in the only two, really, Kohli and Sky, who have been consistent with the bat throughout the tournament. So you can't move them. So he's got to open. And you've got to pull out KL Rahul, probably, because Rohit wouldn't have dropped himself in the tournament. And that would have been the ideal slot to put him in and have DK still there as your finisher, because that's what you've been planning for. Jahel wasn't playing. No wrist spinner on this pitch. You saw what England did. Livingston coming in with his leggies, and Rashid bowled so well as well. So they needed a wrist spinner in conditions like this. It's just some of it is basic stuff. Like we've been talking about it all throughout the build-up. Every Tom, Dick and Harry journalist or fan sees that, okay, Yuzi would be useful on this pitch, or Rishabh Pant should be opening. KL Rahul isn't the answer. He needs to be dropped from this side from T20Is, basically, and either go back and start, working on those aspects of his game, or just concentrate on ODIs and test matches, which is probably his strength. They don't think like that, do they? I don't know what it is. They obviously block out external noise, which is good in a way, but are their brains not functioning properly? What is it? It's just so frustrating. You just want to pick up the phone almost to Rahul Dravid and Rohit Sharma and say, have you not spotted that KL Rahul's shit at T20s at the top of the order? Or not shit, I shouldn't say that, but he's not a modern day. He'd do well against Afghanistan's and all these sides, which he always does, Netherlands and whatever. But he's not a big time player in T20 internationals. You compare him to any other opener of any of the top sides in this competition, he's not getting a sniff at getting in any of those sides ahead of any of those players. You look at Australia, England, you're having a laugh. Even Babar and Rizwan have got more intent than KL Rahul in big matches, haven't they? And they do tend to turn up in big matches, even if the strike rate's not quite there. So, individually, they're not doing a bad job. It's just that if they're both playing anchor, then that doesn't work sometimes. But, he's just not getting in any other team in the world. So what gives him a right to be in this side time and time again? It's just, the captaincy of Rohit is largely to blame for that. Rahul Dravid as the coach, his right-hand man, and the selection committee as well.
Yeah.
I think it needs a massive overhaul, don't you?
Yeah. Just one more bit on Dinesh Karthik. We knew coming into the tournament that the role that was assigned for him was the high risk, high reward kind of a player, and that was his role. On days when he could get a big knock, he could strike at 200, 250 even, and on days he didn't get going, At least he didn't consume deliveries, but Rohit Sharma knew that, and he assigned that role specifically for him. I think that was the first time India had a specialist finisher, so to say. And as you rightly said, just a knee jerk reaction, a panic change kind of, that okay, DK is not firing, whatever happens at the top of the order, this one player is probably going to change everything. Rightly said, the Pant is not a finisher. whatever skills he has, he had to play in the top, but then there's no place for him at the top because that would mean pushing Hardik Pandya even further down. And Hardik Pandya, is kind of like Dhoni, likes to take the game deep and then go after the bowling. So yeah, it's just a huge mess. Coming to KL Rahul, he was very tentative. Like the ball that got him out, he was tentative. He wasn't looking to really cut it, but it wasn't a proper jab as well. So, and somehow it just seems to lack that temperament in big match situations. Coming to Rohit, Rahul, I somehow it's not going to change till the entire the structure and the structure changes. Basically the approach to T20 is changes. We did a full podcast on this earlier. Why you keeping Shaw out? Why you keeping the likes of Sanju Samson out? Rohit Sharma last year, I think, or this year, had said that Sanju Samson could prove to be very effective in Australia. Rohit Sharma, the skipper, said that, and then he didn't take him to Australia. So, is Indian cricket living off on legacies? Is Indian cricket living off on the superstar culture? That needs to be seen. Also, one very interesting point, probably I could be way wrong, and you can correct me for that, but probably, do you think that BCCI is just throwing these big match players there? So, for financial returns, I don't know, I could be way wrong, that when Virat Kohli missed the Border Gavaskar series in 2020, he came back for the because his wife was having a kid. There were reports that Cricket Australia and the broadcasters would lose huge sums of money just because Virat Kohli was not going to play the entire series. So do you think that's an angle that maybe they are afraid to?
From both sides, though,
Sure.
Sarah. From
Yeah.
both sides, because an Indian cricketer's value goes down if the Indian cricketer is only playing one format or two formats of cricket for the country.
Yeah.
Look at Pujara, right? His commercial value is nowhere near as high as some of the other guys who have been in the Indian setup for a similar amount of time. So you look at somebody like a Virat Kohli who plays all three formats. Obviously, Kohli is, arguably the greatest of all time, so it's a bad example. But, even a KL Rahul, for example,
Yeah.
his commercial value is a lot higher than Pujara, even though he's not fit enough to lace Pujara's boots at this stage of his career, even in Test cricket, because Pujara has proven all around the world how great a player that he has been for a number of years. But, KL Rahul's commercial value is so much higher. He's a bigger superstar just because he plays all three formats. That obviously means he plays in the IPL as well regularly, and he's a captain of a franchise there. And, he's a young, good-looking guy with a beard, and, he's got all the right look of a modern-day international Indian cricketer with the tattoos and all that stuff. It's all bollocks, really, when you look at it, because if you can't bat, then what's the point, in all that? So I think it's from both sides that players, these big superstars, it's difficult for them to give up a format, even if they think they're not good enough to be there. And from the BCCI's point of view, it's great to have these guys as the poster boys of the Indian team going to a World Cup, because they're all superstars. And so I think that there is something there. Obviously, by not winning, that's not doing your commercial value any good either. If you were holding a World Cup, then you might get even more commercial deals. So interesting. But look, we'll carry on the discussion. We'll look at maybe a couple of positives from the game, if there are any, after this short break.
You're listening to Cricket's Conversation on 99.94. Whatever your team, we have the show for you on podcast, YouTube, or on the 99.94 app. We have India, England, South Africa, West Indies, and now Sri Lanka covered. If you want to find us, the best way is to follow us on social media at 9994DM by downloading the 9994 app or Google 99.94 on podcast. We speak cricket.
So the one big main positive from that semi-final defeat, Hardik Pandya and his innings. Of course, Virat Kohli with another 50 at the Adelaide Oval. Love affair continues with the ground, and he got to his 50 off 39 balls, which is basically what Kohli does. So, you can't accuse him of going into his shell or anything. He usually does that, and then he kicks on. If he stays in anything beyond sort of 40 deliveries, he sort of kicks on with his strike rate. So that's basically a normal Kohli inning. So that's absolutely fine. He's been doing that even in this tournament as well, and it's proved to be successful for him, and he's done his job, I feel, in this side. Sky, it didn't quite come off, and then Hardik to come in 63 from 33, striking at over 190. Could have been more as well if it wasn't for. I mean, some of those shots were just brilliant as well, and access. I think the brain that he showed, the awareness. I mean, it doesn't take rocket science to figure out the square boundaries are short, the long boundaries. The straight boundaries are long. So let's try and hit square. And even full deliveries, Yorker length deliveries, he was moving around in his crease well. He was sort of slicing and flicking, and even pulling the short ball as well. Usually he likes to play within his sort of arc around that long on area, but he was going a little bit squarer this time on purpose, just because he wanted to access those shorter boundaries. So real good game awareness from him, and slightly disappointing at the end there where he trod on his stumps. It was a brilliant shot to get it away for 4 on the leg side, but he was so far back in his crease that he trod on his stumps. So he could have had 4 more as well. What a brilliant innings, and to get India to 168, which is a bang on par score at that ground, was a great effort from where they were. I mean, 80 was it 83 or 86 off 13, something like that. And then to just last 7 overs, just take it to another level and more than double that score. Brilliant effort from him. But even then, it felt a bit light, right? Quick word on you from his innings, and then how India would have felt at the halfway stage.
At one stage, Hardik Pandya was 25 and 23 balls. So he didn't get off to the greatest start. And then to go on and then score 63 and 33 is magnificent. We've seen it in the IPL. With him, as I said earlier, he is the real, you can say, 3D player, because he can play the role of an anchor. He did that for Gujarat Titans in this IPL. He didn't have the best strike rate, but he played the knocks, and he didn't. What was impressive in the IPL was he didn't overstay his presence on the crease. Like, he knew that there are players like Tewatia and even Rashid Khan had a Miller, so they were there lower down the order, and he just he knew when to get out and just play the role of an anchor and leave it for the other players. And we saw today that he has the other side also. He can start off slow and then go after the bowling, like probably only Surya Kumar can. So yeah, impressive knock. In that hit wicket, I tweeted something like, will that come to affect India? What if they lose by like 2 runs?
Yeah,
whatever.
England will need,
Yeah.
it will affect them. England will need one more ball to get the runs, basically.
Yeah. It didn't matter even if they had scored 200. I don't think it would have mattered even more. So
Yeah, but you say that, right? But 200 or even 180 plus, the mindset of the opposition is different then, isn't it? Yeah, they'll still try and play attacking cricket in that first 6, but there's more pressure. There was literally but I mean, 168, you just saw the swag that the England batters had. They knew that this is piece of piss, really. They're just gonna walk this. If they get off to anywhere near half decent start, even if they lose 2 wickets in the power play, you look down that batting lineup. I mean, they brought in Chris Jordan today, and they bat all the way right down. I mean, it's unbelievable, the likes of Curran and Jordan coming in so late in the order, and they're all capable hitters, and it was never even going to get to that. They just knew that this is going to be easy for them on this pitch. They'd been out there for 20 overs. They'd seen the way the pitch was playing. There was no demons in it at all. They just bowled well. And India didn't bat well enough. And that was basically all it came down to. So 200 might have been, on the face of it, you say the amount of time they had left, the fact they scored that 169 really easily. Yes, But it would have been different if they were chasing 200 because they would have had to maintain that 10 and over all the way through. And if it gets down to even the last couple of overs and you need 20 off the last two, and you're still going at 10s, by the way, then funny things can happen and pressure can play a part and all that. So I think it would have made a massive difference getting close to 200, would have put that psychological pressure onto them. But it just wasn't enough. And, you look at this England side, the way, I mean, first of all, hats off to Alex Hales and Joss Butler. Hales, of course, has been and played in the Big Bash for seasons after seasons and knows those conditions so well. It's been a hard time for him. He's been out of the side for off the field reasons, missed the 2019 World Cup because of that. As long as Owen Morgan was captain, he wasn't going to get another sniff. And then Morgan retires, he comes back in, and it's like a fairy tale, really, the way it's worked out for Alex Hales. But such a brilliant, brutal player at the top of the order. But this is an England side that is missing, out of this current squad, Milan, Mark Wood, who, I mean, Milan has been consistent. Whatever people think about David Milan, he's not this sexy name and whatever. He's been the number one T20 batter in the world consistently in that sort of top 2-3 for last couple of years, really. And he always performs, and his strike rate is, you can't complain about that. He's a left-hander, causes problems at the top of the order. So he's missing. So that, they've got to get Phil Salt in, who didn't need to bat. But then Mark Wood with the ball as well. They're missing that X factor, 97 mile an hour bowler in Mark Wood. So that's a big miss for them. Reece Topley missed, he's missed out completely because of injury as well. So he absolutely gutted for him. But what a fine bowler he is.
Archer.
And Archer's missing. Johnny Bairstow's missing. Can you imagine what their side would have looked like if they had, I mean, could they even fit them all in? Would they have the same problems as, we think India have got, but India haven't really got because they haven't got the same quality of T20 players. But it's almost like you can't fit all these guys in. So you're missing all these world-class players and you're still hammering India by 10 wickets and making it look easy, like restricting them to, I think it was par was based on history and all that rubbish, which, you got to take that with a pinch of salt. Against this England team on this day, that was at least 20 runs below par.
Yeah.
At least. Because you don't stand a chance when you're getting that. And then to come out and win by 10 wickets, just brilliant.
And that's why it was so shocking for Rohit Sharma to say that, we would have batted first, because that against this batting lineup, England have they bat very deep and they are very good at chasing. You never know what target would have been enough, and which is like his decision was also obviously he lost the toss, but just him saying that was also weird, because India's strength has always been chasing. We spoke about how the India had almost a win percentage of 50, 52, 53 when they were batting first from 2018 to 21 till the World Cup last year. So suddenly, I don't know, they think that this intent has come over them and they can score 250 runs up front or something. Maybe they thought that's why he was like, we would have batted first. But realistically, that was always a very weird thing to say, according to me. And just one more thing, I was just thinking that this year, because of workload management and everything, the Indian players, they skipped a number of series. Like, they didn't play in Ireland and so they were skipping series. And this is what is going to happen with the ODI World Cup next year also. They won't put T20s, bilaterals as their focus. The main 11 is going to play the ODIs and, skip the T20s. And then suddenly, once the ODI World Cup ends next year, then all the big stars will be probably be back in the T20I setup and have just 4 or 5 months to get into groove and then play the T20 World Cup in 24. So instead, isn't it better that, they have a completely different T20I squad? I know you spoke about how the big players always want to play all three formats, but realistically speaking and going forward also, because it kind of just creates confusion. What this also causes is that there are different coaches, like we saw VVS Lakshman, heading, like coaching the team when the big stars was in there, when Rahul Dravid was in one of the big tours, and then Rahul Dravid is coming back. So this causing a lot of chaos, and there's just no continuity in the team, I think.
It is, yeah. I mean, it's trying to fit too much cricket in, and as the IPL expands as well, that's going to be a major issue because the IPL, whether you like to admit it or not, everyone listening, and I'm not having a dig. A lot of people didn't like my comments about. I didn't even make a comment actually. I just posted something about Bumrah's stats and the amount of appearances he's made in the IPL across the last few years and the amount of India T20 international appearances he's made in the last couple of years as well. And, he played like 59 out of 60 matches for the Mumbai Indians in a couple of years or 3 years, whatever it was, the stat I posted. And, out of that, he's missed, more than like 60% of T20 internationals. So, and, I'm not, that is part of workload management as well, but surely the international stuff should be a priority, right? Playing with that team, with that group of players who you hope to then achieve a world title with. So yeah, there's lots of questions, and look, we'll discuss a lot of this in future episodes as well about where they go from here and what they do next. But we'll take a short break here, and on the back of it, we'll maybe discuss some of the takeaways from this World Cup.
If you love the language of cricket and want more, then head over to the 99.94 app and you can hear all of our podcasts and cricket commentary. We're adding new shows all the time and covering cricket series from all over the world. Be the first to hear all of our announcements by following us on social media at 9994DM. Welcome to Cricket's Conversation.
So positives as far as India are concerned: Suryakumar Yadav, massive tick; Virat Kohli, big tick. I think the bowling on the whole, the seam bowling has been very good. Obviously not against England. Rohit Sharma came out and said he was disappointed the way they bowled early on, and almost sort of deflected the fact that their batting's been very sketchy, especially him and KL Rahul at the top of the order. The bowling wasn't great against England, so we have to sort of admit that he was right on that front, but it didn't cost them the game because they'd probably already lost by then anyway by not scoring enough. But Bhuvi's been good. They've not had to use him too much in crucial death situations, so it's kind of worked. Shami's been good coming back into the side. I don't think he'll carry on playing T20Is though. Arshdeep's been a revelation. Hardik's bowled well in patches. Akshar has been crap. But, it's not his fault really. It's those wickets in Australia. They just don't suit his type of bowling. And Ashwin's been Ashwin. He's been all right sometimes. He's not been so great others. Not really his best format. Discuss.
I think you said what's all to be said.
What about the negatives?
Negatives again. We can go on and on and on. One more negative, just looking at the scorecard, Arshdeep Singh bowled 2 overs, went for 15 runs, was the most economical bowler. For India, went for 2 overs. He only bowled 2 overs. What were they saving him for the death overs? I don't know what were they saving him for.
As it turns out, the death overs weren't overs 19 and 20. They were 15 and 16, weren't they?
Yeah.
So,
bizarre. Yeah. Even
Yeah,
Bhuvi, you understood he was expensive, but Arshdeep, if you had any, I don't know, common sense or
Akshar bowled.
whatever.
Akshar Patel bowled 3 overs for 30. 4 overs for 30. He bowled all 4 overs. And 30 runs, on the face of it, you say not bad, but he came back towards the end of that, and England was then just knocking him around. But his first 2 overs were very expensive. Shami bowled 3 overs, 39 he went for as well. Can be hittable at times, you see. That's the only issue with him in this format. But, he was brought in as a late replacement, of course, for Bumrah. Everyone took a bit of tap, didn't they? Everyone got, Akshar might go away happy that he only conceded 7.5 and over, the same as Arshdeep, but he didn't bowl well enough to merit those kind of figures, really. But yeah, it's just one of those things, really. But yeah, look, there are some positives. So just before we sign
But
off on
those
this, go
positives,
on.
those positives are not something which just sprung out in this tournament. We always
Yeah.
knew Arshdeep, uh, in the IPL he's impressed, and we knew what he could do. Yeah, in with no Bumrah around, he did step up, and he was
But
very
for him to do
impressive.
it on a
Yeah,
world stage, I mean,
yeah,
doing it in the IPL is different, right?
yeah.
KL Rahul can turn it on in the IPL and be at the top of the run scoring charts. But it's in these pressure, handling that pressure. He's the go-to man now at the death with no Bumrah there. All that pressure is on him. Even early with the new ball as well. There's no Bumrah with the new ball either, so he has to come in, swing the ball, take early wickets. In that Pakistan game, he got Babar out, he got Rizwan out, he got the two big wicket. He's been doing that consistently through this tournament, and it's different. Even doing it in the Asia Cup is different. This is a world tournament, so for him to step up, I think that's a big, big tick next to his name for the future. So look, just before we sign off, this is out of the 11 that played today, because I'm not going to look at the whole squad. Out of the 11 that played today, going forward in a squad, not necessarily an 11, Virat probably. Maybe there's a question mark. Probably. It depends. If you sort the top two out, get proper players at the top of the order who can play T20 cricket, then Kohli's position is secure. Kohli, Sky, Hardik, Rishabh in the squad at least. And then you'd probably have Bhuvi and Arshdeep going forward. And that's it, really. So that's quite a few changes you'd need to make to that side and to the squad as a whole as well. A lot of work needs doing. And,
already Dinesh Karthik and Ashwin aren't picking the squad for New Zealand, I think. So I think it's probably curtains for their T20I career. Dinesh Karthik wasn't really a big surprise. He's 37, considering he didn't get much chances.
Well, Ashwin's, 36?
Yeah, but
Ashwin's, and
Ashwin.
I know he's a spinner, but it's not his best format either.
Yeah.
He did, he did a sterling job where he came in, he did what was asked of him, but better planning would have maybe led to different spin options and all-rounder options. So, again, if Jadeja was available, I don't think Ashwin gets to play either. Which, whether you think that's right or wrong, it just would have happened. So, because it's not as if he's spinning it round corners in Australian conditions, Ashwin, in this format with the white ball. So it's just that extra batting depth he gives you and the experience and all that kind of stuff. So yeah,
Shehbaz Ahmed is one to watch out for in the future, I would say.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, let's save some of these names. We'll sign off now, and next episode we'll discuss what is next. Thanks for joining us, and see you next time.